Common Sense America with Eden Cornell. Yeah.
And good morning, Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. Welcome. It's Monday. It's May the 15th. I hope each and every one of you had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend, celebrating mothers, the aunts, the godparents, all of those who are very special in our lives. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, restful. I hope you were spoiled. I hope you had breakfast in bed. I hope you were just reflecting on all that you have to be thankful for. I am so glad to be here with you this beautiful Monday morning here in Eastern North Carolina. Been up since 5 a.m., did my walk at 6 a.m., had my Jesus time, had my 3 mugs of Zabar's coffee, hashtag Zabar's, hashtag New York City. And, I'm so glad to be with you here. We have a very special guest here, back to the show here at Common Sense America. My friend Craig Syracusa, who is based in New York City and New Jersey. He represents the Emmaus Center. He does all the media. If you remember Monsignor Jamie, who has the amazing cookbook, who was on the show earlier this year and then came on for Easter, he represents Monsignor Jamie, and they were just over a Good Day New York with Rosanna Scotto last week. And he is working on a new book. He's working on a documentary. He's finishing up a cookbook. I mean, he goes from A to Z, and also is a father and a husband and has beautiful children. And he and his wife reside in North Jersey. And I'm just so grateful for the friendship. I'm so grateful for what he does in New York and New Jersey and serving the community. So we'll be hearing from him in just a few minutes. He'll be joining us at about 5 after the hour. Also, I will tell you what, we have a lot of great things coming to us this week. I wanted to share with you, we are going to be talking tomorrow to a Drexel University professor. He has a brand new book out called Brutal Minds. It's called Brutal Minds, The Dark World of the Left-Wing Brainwashing in our Universities. Dr. Stanley Ridgely, PhD, clinical professor of management at Drexel University, will be joining us tomorrow here at Common Sense America to talk about his new book. And also, we will be bringing back to the show Ramona Bessinger. She is a dear friend of mine. She is an educator in the state of Rhode Island. She has been in teacher jail for fighting this woke indoctrination in our school system. She's been an English teacher for many years. And she's fighting back, but they have put her in teacher jail. And she is not afraid to speak out. She was at an education forum in Northern Virginia last week talking about what is happening in and around the nation, and especially in Rhode Island, and what's happening in Loudoun County. And in the second half of the show, I will be re-airing our episode with Juliana Sweeney. She's with Young Voices, and she's an educator in Loudoun County talking about these gender-neutral bathrooms, which are being imposed in the new fall of the school year in Loudoun County, which basically exposes little girls to adult men, basically, and sets it up for a really difficult situation and many things that have already happened in these school systems. So it's a heavy topic, but we need to be talking about it. And we as Christians in the public square need to have our voices and not afraid to talk about these very hard issues. So I'm going to be re-airing this morning after we bring over Craig to the show. But one of the big questions, and the show's about God, country, and family. One of the big questions we are talking about with Craig this morning is there still a place for God in Hollywood? And I'll open with this. My many years of serving in the United States Senate, I worked for Senator Rick Santorum. And during that time period, President Bush was in office, the second one. He had a faith-based office and community initiatives. Our main focus was to make sure we lifted the good, the true, and the beautiful in our culture. And even back then, there were culture wars happening. This was back in the early 2000s. And you know what? A lot of things have changed in our culture wars. So what we're going to do this morning is talk to Craig Syracusa. He is, like I said, a very good friend to the show, a good friend to our family. And he's going to be talking about his new book, his new documentary, and also talking about NRB. We will all be at NRB convention next week in Orlando, Florida. Good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you? It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I have a surprise to share with you when we get to NRB next week.
Oh,
and,
really?
this show is going into another spot, and I can't wait to tell you about it. So it's a little teaser for everybody who's tuning in. A couple people know, but it's going to be pretty big. I can't wait to tell you about it. Anyway, I'm so thankful for your support of the show. I'm thankful to the Emmaus Center. I'm thankful to you having some of my clients on your show, Walk in Faith, and you were all over the place. But I loved what you'd sent me the other day. Is there still a place for God in Hollywood? Talk to me about what inspired you to go to this place and this documentary that you were working on.
So thank you, of course, and I look forward to next week at NRB. It's creeping in, but this idea actually started. I did a documentary called Ring of Faith, and it sort of was sparked at that point. I was analyzing sports at the time, and I was so really drawn to the fighters at the end of each match. The first thing they did was glorify God. And you see that in UFC as well. Dana White allows them to speak openly. So in boxing, they would just say, I want to thank God, my Lord, my Savior. So I started to really analyze that. And I did a documentary called Ring of Faith. And the question was, is boxing a sin or a gift from God? How does a sin become a gift? So that started as a kid watching. It was mostly just watching award shows where they would get up and glorify God. And that was something that I was always inspired by. So when we were up for an Emmy and stuff, the first thing I had written was, I'm going to glorify God. I'm going to glorify God. We didn't win, so I didn't have that opportunity. But that always stuck in my mind to say, okay, we used to glorify God all the time when we got on stage. And then recently I read something from Matthew McConaughey, and it's public information. And he says that when he won, I think it was a couple of awards, that when he would get up and thank God, they wouldn't clap. And he said, but these are the people that I pray with. I pray at lunch and we go to church together. But yet when it was his time to get up, they would look around and see who's applauding him because he's thanking God. Right. So I started to do a lot of research, and now we started pulling all of the acceptance speeches from the beginning, trying to see at what point did they stop glorifying God, and then what took place in society during that time and how it all changed. So we're analyzing all this data to see at some point, did we abandon God? Did God abandon Hollywood? I'm trying to see what took place at that point in history to see why it all stopped. Because now for us to get up and glorify God, we're ostracized, right? It's our hair and makeup artist. You're lucky if they even thank their parents, but it's just not what it used to be. And then we see films themselves are completely have taken religion out and faith out. And what to me I find so fascinating, and you know this too, Jesus Revolution, all of these films, The Only Son, they're making 10, 15 times their initial investment. And Hollywood is still not investing in these movies. If Hollywood is based on money, right, why wouldn't they invest in these faith-based movies? Right? Because it's all about a return on investment. They still are not willing to invest in these films. So I want to know why. There is something going on behind the scenes. And friends of mine that do all these big films, like Sound of Freedom, is finally coming out. Finally coming out. And tomorrow we'll be with Alejandro. He's accepted an award in Brooklyn. So I was just writing my speech for him. But films like that, it's so challenging to get them out there. Why? Something is happening behind this iron curtain, and I want to find out what it is.
I wonder if it has been looking at the time period of what you have been studying. And I had mentioned before I brought you over, I had served on the Senate Republican conference with Senator Rick Santorum. During that time period, the second Bush administration had a faith commission office of community initiatives focused on faith. And what we did was I went to Hollywood. I went to Nashville. We went to New York, and we brought in those of faith, but not necessarily, like Switchfoot, for example. You know that they're a Christian band, but they're mainstream, if you will. And in that time period, we worked with Mel Gibson, Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel, Patty Heaton when she was, with, Raymond and all of that. So you have these Christians who are being salt and light on the screen, but yet we knew that they were making an impact, and we would bring them to Washington to talk about how we can, we have a bigger impact being in the public square, lifting the good, the true, and the beautiful. So the legislative piece was all these social issues that were at the forefront of that time period. Pro-life issue, still a conversation piece. How can we give them the talking points of what is happening if they so choose to take on that opportunity? And a lot of them did. But here's where I'm going with this. That was in early 2000s. And that time period, I saw a shift in Hollywood. And then we now see an even greater shift. We have Candace Cameron. We have her brother, Kirk Cameron. We have Great American Media, a spinoff from Hallmark, basically, because they didn't agree with Hallmark in the way they were going. So does it take us as Christians and those in the faith in the public square to say, you know what, enough's enough? We're going to start our own thing, because it's like Jesus Revolution. It's like The Chosen. They had to go out and not be a part of that Hollywood whatever. But my other thought is to this, with what is happening in Hollywood, it's going to crumble. Well, it is. It's going to crumble from inside out, because they are not allowing faith. They're not allowing the support of faith. And we, the people, we are still the majority in this nation. We still believe in a God. We still believe in our faith. That is still very important to us. Family values is still very important to us. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, completely. I do think at some point it will crumble. I was watching a movie the other day by Denzel Washington. I was thinking it's very similar. I'm like, if you get the Denzels, the Mels, the Marks, and you put them all together, they could literally create their own sort of Hollywood. I know
Yes.
Mark said the other day, in a joke, or maybe it's serious, he was going to create some studio where I think he lives in Vegas and off script.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So I think it's possible. I really think it's possible. But to go back to the point, or your point you made to Jesus Revolution, when I think about The Chosen, right? If I'm an investor and I'm looking for an investment or a return on my investment, why am I not investing in these movies?
Right.
That's what I don't understand. They're not and I think it's strategic. I really think that they would rather not get a return on their investment than to see something be glorified that they're against. They're so against sort of promoting our faith and our vision in Jesus Christ that they would rather lose money. Because why wouldn't they invest in a Jesus Revolution or create a Jesus Revolution?
Right.
When they create their faith-based movies, if you will, there's always something. It's not exactly in line with our belief system.
Right.
There's just something off, and it's always based on money. It's just there's something going on, and I believe that. And to me, I want to find out even what's driving culture. Like something is driving culture, because if I'm a celebrity and I get up and I talk about God or I talk about a product, at some point I'm limited to where I can go, right? Because they're allowing me this platform.
Right.
There's something that's driving culture, whether it's the corporations or something beneath that surface that's driving culture in a specific way. And that's what I want to find out. What is driving culture? Because if I get up and talk about God, I'm canceled, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So if I'm a huge celebrity and I get up and speak about Jesus Christ, they're going to cancel me sooner or later. So I don't really have that platform that we might think they have, right? That platform is being controlled by something beneath, whatever that corporation or whatever is driving that. So something strategically is driving culture in a direction. And I really want to find out what that is. And that's what this documentary is going to be about. We're about uncovering what's beneath that surface that's driving culture in a way that goes against what we believe.
I have a couple hunches, but I kind of wonder with it, whatever is driving this underground, it's the funding, it's a couple people who are just basically saying no, it's the atheists, it's those who have no interest in God whatsoever. It could be also, I look at the culture wars that your kids are facing, that the next generation is facing, and it's all being funded by certain groups to diminish the home, diminish the family, diminish the man, the woman, diminishing all of that. And so I can't help but think those are some of my hunches of what you're going to uncover. When will this be coming out, your documentary?
We just started. I've been thinking about this for a while. I pitched it a little bit. We just started putting together the research, and we're going to start filming because, there's a lot of celebrities that I interview, like I interviewed Martin Sheen the other day. And I said to myself, I could just ask them these basic questions because a lot of them have abandoned or left Hollywood. And I want to know why. Why did you leave Hollywood? Like, were you ostracized or were you criticized when you glorified God? And that's going to really sort of, show me the direction of the film. The research we're working on, but I want to find out why and what happened to them. And we know so many, and you know, so many
Yes.
celebrities that have walked away
Yes.
from, you know, and there are probably a lot that are on the brinks of walking away, or a lot of them that are criticized and ostracized, that they don't have the ability to share their openness to Jesus Christ or their faith in general. And that's what I want to uncover. And I think
Yeah.
the last documentary, I mean, it takes, you know, a few years to complete, but the more interviews you do, the more you uncover, the more people that are open. So, I mean, that's the direction we're going to go. And, you know, I would say, I don't know, it's probably going to take at least 2 years to complete.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, the first one I did took 5, the last one took about 3. I mean, it's a lot, but we're going to start working on it. Like I said, we just did Martin Sheen the other day, and we're going to
Yeah.
continue.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Okay, so you sent me your list the other day. You said new book, cookbook, documentary, NRB, Walk in Faith. What else do you have going on? I love following you on Facebook, and thank you for tagging me in a lot of those.
Oh, my pleasure.
Because a lot of the people that watch me on Facebook, they really enjoy what you're doing. So what else do you have coming?
I mean, so my 9 to 5, or what I do the majority of my day, is we run the Opera House, the Emmaus Center, Monsignor Jamie and I. So we do that. We just launched his cookbook, which we were on Rosanna Scotto, which was fantastic. So he was cooking with her. And now we're working on his next book, which is going to be sort of a challenge to get people back to the table. So it'll be during the Christmas season. It'll be 30 days where we have reflections. So we're working on that. And then I started writing a book during COVID, and I didn't get to the last 2 chapters, and I'm glad I didn't. The last 2 chapters were about legacy, leaving a legacy for my family. And I don't think I could have answered that question during COVID. I think during COVID, it was more about, you know, obeying Christ, following God's plan, not my own, and sort of discerning what his plan was instead of what I thought it was. So I wrote the whole book during that period, and then I stopped. And now we went back, and I said, you know what, I'm going to finish this. So they gave me a deadline. We're working on it now. I started writing the last 2 chapters, and it takes some of my interviews. So the whole point is, this is my perspective. This is the biblical, you know, the Bible's perspective. And then also it's celebrities. So between those 3, you might resonate with the Devon Franklin or the Martin Sheen or the Mark Wahlberg that says, this is what, and this is how we should follow God's plan for your life. So I have that. And then we're working on a film. Hopefully we just put in the contracts, which I think will move forward, on Father Capodanno, something we were working on prior to COVID. Hopefully we start putting that together, but that's at the beginning stages. The script is done. And now we're just sort of shopping it around, and that I'll start working on. But that's the same thing. These are years and years of work.
Yes.
And it's the show, Walk in Faith, and NRB. I have about 20 interviews lined up, and I'm still doing the show. I mean, it's just juggling. You just keep juggling.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
it's like fishing. Your husband loves fishing, right? You just keep fishing and fishing. It's you know, somehow it all works out. I mean, God gives me the ability to do all these projects, and so I keep doing them.
No, my husband, and I'm sure your wife, I mean, they sit there and watch us and know that we're spinning 100, you know, 10, you know.
Well, I drink this all day.
Well,
I'm not promoting C4, but I drink caffeine all day.
I don't know if you can see it. This is filled with Zabars. Zabars I have shipped to me once a month from New York, from the Upper West Side. It was in my neighborhood when I lived up there. And it's this old Jewish deli. And I'm like, send me your coffee. And I get the pods every month. Spoiled, rotten, but it gets me going. I tell you what, it gets me going.
I need it. I mean, it's funny though, too, when I talk to my wife about certain things, I'll say, oh yeah, meet with Joe or Anthony or Frank. She can't follow. She's like, who's that? I said, I told you and then I realized, like, every day it's so many things. The funniest thing is, like, you know, my son, when he goes to school, the parents always ask Dana, they go, what does your husband do for a living? And when I get that question, even when people ask me at the doctor, she's like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, how do I answer this? I'm like, so I just say I'm a communicator for Christ. Like, it depends on the day. Like today I'm writing a speech, and then I got to prepare for all the interviews. And tomorrow we have a huge gala at Cipriani. So I'll be presenting there. And then I don't know what I'm doing. All I know is it's all in line to following Christ, evangelizing, bringing people. And that's it. So that's what I do, is try to bring people to Christ through whatever gifts and talents that God has given me.
Well, we need to be salt and light. And I realized that really came to life for me when I served in the senator's office, because I was always going out to Hollywood and I was meeting with all these celebrities, and I realized how they were being salt and light. they were going against everything. And that's what we are doing today. In this post-COVID era, we are being salt and light. And I think that's what NRB, this will be my first time at NRB. And I feel like I've been just baptized by fire with everything, with all of these media opportunities. It's been huge. And I'm so excited. But that's what we are called to do. We're called to be salt and light for such a time as this, going through the book of Esther. I was looking through that this morning. One final note, talk to me. How is Monsignor Jamie? And I saw some of the Rosanna Scotta interview, and that was phenomenal. How are things going with the cookbook? And where is he going next? I just love watching everything he's doing.
I thought we were supposed to do Pix 11. I don't know if it was today or next week.
Really?
I hope it wasn't today because we didn't show up. But, we did Rosanna Scotta last week, and she's hosting the event tomorrow night with Monsignor Jamie. He raises, millions of dollars tomorrow night for underprivileged kids so they can go to Catholic school. So that's his big gala at Cipriani tomorrow night. So he has that. There's actually tickets still available if anyone's interested. That's at the Wall Street Cipriani.
Okay.
He has that. He's got, the cookbook, the second book we're working on. We still film Breaking Bread, which, I think we're on our 13th episode, which airs on all different net TV, Catholic TV, all these different platforms. They air a show. His next book, I'm trying to move into creating products for Breaking Bread, oil and sauce. So that's our next thing. He used to create wine. So we're looking into doing that. He's got a lot going on. And then he has all his parishes and chaplains. So, when I get a few minutes of his time, it's like, I'm honored, because he's so busy.
I'm just so impressed by him. I love the legacy that he's leaving. And that really excites me about the new cookbook you guys are talking about gathering back at the table. A little crazy fact, how you've been praying for my husband and I as we've been moving into this new house. This new house does not have a space for a kitchen table or a dining room table. They made it specifically without that. And it got me thinking about, is that what our culture is now used to? Not gathering around the table anymore. So in many senses, I sit there and say, wow, this is exactly what our culture needs. And so, you know what I did? I made the back porch covered into our dining room table, and that's where we gather to eat. It's a beautiful home and I'm grateful, but you can't help but wonder, why are they no longer doing that?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I would believe exactly what you said, that most people don't gather together as a family. I mean, that's what this book's about. I mean, during COVID, it was like everyone was together, right? And we same thing, like during COVID, I would post, my reflections and talk about God, and everyone was praying and talking about God, and then all of a sudden when COVID passed, it's like they view God as that person that you call when you need to move a couch. Like, God, can I use you today? And then they put you back in the box, or they call him in a couple of months. But during COVID, families came together and they sat as a family. And then when COVID was a thing of the past, it's like that. What happened to that? How important that was to be together, connected. I mean, so this idea is to just sit down, a little reflection questions, a little praying, and then hopefully after 21 or 30 days, people will create that new habit and say how important it is to come together as a family, opposed to eating all different places in the house.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. One final word, and I'll let you go because I know you got to rock and roll today. You have a ton to do. Where can our audience follow you, find you? I have your Facebook, Gospel Plan Production, going across the bottom, but your reflections are really powerful. So share with us just a hint about that, and then where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah, I mean, on Instagram, it's Craig Syracusa. I have a last name, Tubiolo, too, which is my legal last name. My wife's like, you got to use Tubiolo. But either way, it's Craig Syracusa. You can find me. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, actually. TikTok I love just for that reason, because people communicate. They ask me a lot of questions about sin and about faith. You'd be surprised how much interaction you get on TikTok from a positive standpoint.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people ask me questions about Christ. Will Christ forgive me? And it's, these are really important questions. But for me, it really started just during COVID. I started doing these reflections maybe a little before COVID, and I continue to do them. I don't do them every day because I'm doing a lot of interviews and other projects. But these reflections, I just pick up, a Bible, I read it. I don't know what the passage is, and I just reflect on it in the moment. I don't think about it, and I pray and I allow the Holy Spirit to just sort of work through me. And sometimes people watch them, sometimes they don't. But I don't get hung up on how many likes and views I get, because it's not about that. It's that one person. And when I see a message, especially on YouTube or TikTok, and they say, this really impacted me, or this really spoke to my heart, I'm like, okay, God, this is great. And then I do it another day and another day, keep going. But, I had a guy the other day, he's probably not watching. He actually said and I know him a long time, he couldn't be friends with me anymore because of all my Jesus posts. And I was so happy, because I said, this is working.
Yes.
He was afraid. He's in like Hollywood. And he said, I can't, jeopardize my job because of all your Jesus posts. I told my wife, this is great. I said, because that means that he's worried because all he sees is my Jesus posts. I said, I'm going to keep doing them, and I'm going to tag him too. So I'm like, this is great. So he unfriended me because of my Jesus posts. So,
that's fabulous.
Listen, when you come on my Facebook or my Instagram or YouTube, you know what you're getting into.
Yes.
It's Jesus, and that's it. That's all it is.
Amen. Well, I can't wait to see you next week at NRB.
Yes, I'll see you.
I think I have my roller skates ready, or whatever's modern day, but I know we're going to be going madness like crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I've been praying for that because it's stressful. Once I land, I start interviews all day. The next day, it's lined up. And I mean, if I had an open schedule, I could probably do 100 interviews. That's how many requests we get. It has to be about 100. And, unfortunately, I can't do 100 in a day. I could do about 20 before I pass out.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm grateful that you really kind of supported me in that, because I've been doing all the pre-interviews leading up to it, and that has just been phenomenal. So many amazing men and women who are going to NRB, and I'm excited to finally meet them. So thank you for your encouragement in that. So I look forward
to seeing you, and next Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday I'll be
there. Yeah, next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. So many blessings to you and your family. Thank you so much. I hope everything goes well with Monsignor Jamie. Please tell him I said hello.
So, I will. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill, and that was Craig Syracusa, a dear friend of ours who is at the Emmaus Center in Brooklyn, New York, who also works with Futures in Education, as you heard, who has a documentary he's working on talking about, is there still a place for God in Hollywood? If you have not yet followed him, you can see his Facebook and God Plan Production. You can see all the work that he's doing, all the books that he's working on, but also he posts weekly and sometimes daily reflections, as you heard from scripture. And so if you need a few minutes of inspiration during middle of your day, hop over to his Facebook page. He's all over social media, as you heard him say. So on that note, it is just about 9:30 a.m. Eastern time here at Common Sense America. I'm going to take a quick break. And then, as I promised you, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to air again the interview with Julia Sweeney from Loudoun County. You guys need to hear this. And it was aired Friday morning. And I know a lot of us were already headed into Mother's Day mode and weekend mode. So I wanted to air this again. It's too important to pass up. And our young minds and our young children and the next generation, we can't dismiss this anymore. We can't. We just can't. So, right back here in about 2 minutes, I will be airing an interview with Julia Sweeney, Loudoun County teacher. As you guys will see a theme, tomorrow is education as well. University education, elementary education, and then later in the week, more NRB convention special guests, which I'm excited to introduce you to. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining Common Sense America. And we're back here at Common Sense America. I mean, Hill, if you have not had a chance, hop over to YouTube, hop over to LinkedIn, hop over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You will find Common Sense America reels, interviews, live interviews, and post-show interviews as well. Like I said, we have a phenomenal week here at Common Sense America, all about education today, tomorrow, and then later in the week, NRB guests as we head to Florida this weekend, honestly. And so we will be down there for a couple days, making things happen, meeting people, networking, and bringing more great guests to the show. Thank you all for your audience's support. Thank you so much for your friendship, your messages. Send me notes. Send me whatever you would like. So I know what other guests you'd like to have back. If you want to suggest new guests, I have many people suggesting new guests. So that's what we are working on here at Common Sense America. So I'm going to bring over now Juliana Sweeney, elementary education, school teacher, Loudoun County, Young Voices. We're going to re-air this episode from last week. I am not going to be censored for speaking truth here at Common Sense America. You guys know that. This audience knows we're here about God, country, and family, and we're speaking the truth where you can't find it any other place, with the exception of talk radio, which I absolutely love. Chris DeGaulle, O'Connor and Company, Zeb Gorka. You have great truth leaders on talk radio. Greg Kelly, WABC, New York. But it's hard to find it on cable news these days. As we are constantly in the discussion of the education piece, the woke indoctrination that's happening in our backyards. And I talk about it all the time because I'm very passionate about fighting this wokeness, this cult-like mentality. And another thing that the Senate candidate talked about yesterday was the bathroom issues that is now facing Loudoun County. Loudoun County has a lot of issues, frankly. It is one of the wealthiest counties in the nation, not in just the state of Virginia. And so this morning, we have a school teacher, a woman of faith, and a Young Voices contributor. You guys know how much I love Young Voices. I'm bringing over to the show Juliana Sweeney. She's a contributor to Young Voices. Follow her Twitter profile. Wife, teacher, seeking the kingdom, contributor for Young Voices. And here is her Twitter account. I'm going to bring her over to the show. Good morning. How are you, Juliana? Nice to finally meet you.
Eden, it's so good to meet you. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I heard that you were a participant in the eMord education piece the other night, and we had him on the show yesterday. So thank you for stirring the pot. Thank you for raising your voices in Virginia, because it sounds like there's a lot happening. I also have shared with the audience on the social feed your article that Fox News posted, and I'm going to put it up here so people can see it. But it really is talking about, here we go, the destructive plan that will threaten students' safeties with woke bathroom policies. What is going on? Why is this happening? And you are a school teacher in Loudoun County, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I am a school teacher at a private school in Loudoun County. So as it pertains to that specific policy, so Loudoun County recently proposed and adopted a budget item for 2 high schools in the county to have co-ed bathrooms. And let me tell you a little bit about these bathrooms. So
Sure.
It's shared bathrooms between men and women. And when you walk in the restroom, there would be a line of sinks, a hallway of sinks, and then floor to ceiling bathroom stalls that are completely enclosed. So while that does provide some privacy, that obviously raises a lot of issues with safety, and also the principle in and of itself that we're asking our 13 and 14-year-old girls potentially to share bathrooms with 18, 19, 20-year-old men.
Okay, so there's something so evil about what you just said. So I always ask the question, follow the money. Where is this money coming from to have this destructive but yet impactful behavior within the school system? Where's this money coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Well, as you already said, Loudoun County is one of the, if not the wealthiest county in the country, but that doesn't take away from the fact that these $11 million are coming from taxpayers, from parents who may or may not be sending their children to public schools, and just taxpayers in general who may or may not have anything to do with the public school. And that's how public schools are funded generally. But another one of the problems with the price is this is the renovation of only 2 high school bathroom facilities. And so if they were going to follow through with renovating the rest of the high schools in the county, or the rest of the dozens of elementary, middle, high schools in the county, this would be hundreds of millions of dollars, not just $11 million.
So do you think it's obvious, common sense, this is Common Sense America, so common sense would say they're making a political statement more than anything?
Yes, I think it is a political statement, especially considering transgender individuals, or individuals who suddenly call themselves transgender, already have a lot of special rules in place for themselves. They already can choose which bathroom they would like to go to. There are some private bathrooms. And so we are creating a supposed solution to tailor the student experience to a very select few students.
So a couple concerns I have, remembering what it was like being in school, remembering, I was that girl that always had to use the restroom because I was always drinking water, trying to stay hydrated. But I also remember when I didn't get to go, that caused physical issues. And I sit here and say to the young women who are coming up, who are still developing, are they going to wait to go to the bathroom until they get home that full school day because they don't want to be subjected to potential assaults? That's a huge concern. So that's my first huge concern. So we're looking out for a very small population, but yet we are destroying the greater population of individuals who need to help take care of themselves. This physical piece of it is huge. And go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Women already have a hard time, excuse me, going to the restroom in public places,
Yeah.
not to mention girls as well. High school is very uncomfortable. And now you're adding a whole new layer of uncomfort and a safety concern going into the restroom for young girls. And so there certainly is a health aspect to this as well. You hit it on the head.
So talk to me about this. You are a school teacher in Loudoun County, and I'm surprised they haven't basically censored you and taken you out for you doing all these interviews and talking about this. Where does this position you in the sense of your career, your convictions, and the bridge of that to, are you going to continue being that salt and light in a very dark school, knowing that it is your goal to protect these children? Or are you going to say, you know what, maybe I should guide these parents in a different space? There's so many, and I talked with the Senate candidate yesterday. I said, so many parents are now considering, not just in Virginia, but around the nation, homeschooling or some kind of online learning because they are trying to protect their children from this demonic force of the woke indoctrination. And that's what it is. So what do you say to the parents when you are literally watching this happen in front of you, knowing that you want to be the salt and light, right? But also, how do you go about your day to day?
There are more than 81,000 children in the Loudoun County public school system. And that's a lot of kids who are not across the board, but largely being indoctrinated by the woke policies of the left, because the leftists in our country have taken over the school system. And so for my fellow Christians, for my fellow believers, and even people of other faith, my encouragement is really, don't send your kids to schools that hate you, that hate your values, that call you domestic terrorists. And certainly sending your children to private schools is an investment. And I grew up in Southern Arizona, and I was if I could say, a faithful Fox News watcher growing up with my grandparents. And so I I did not think very fondly of Loudoun County and Fairfax County because you hear about all of these crazy policies coming out of this Northern Virginia school system. I never thought that I would, well, I never thought that I would be a teacher for one, but then for two, I never thought I would be a teacher in Loudoun County. I came to the DC area to pursue politics, like many of us out here, and that wasn't a great fit. And so it was interesting. I was telling the story yesterday how the day that I went to get fingerprinted for my current role as a teacher was the day that news broke about a transgender student or a male student who came in with a skirt, said he was transgender, and raped a girl. That was the day that I said, yes, I want to be a teacher. And so I do feel like I've been placed in Loudoun County for this time, for this purpose. I didn't move across the country to teach, to raise a ruckus, if you will, about the policies, but that's where I have been placed for this time. And it makes the most sense to speak up on this issue. It seems like nobody else, and there are others, so many others I can think of on the right who are raising awareness on these crazy policies that are truly hurting our children. But we need more people. And so that's why I'm speaking up on this issue, because our children matter. They are the most vulnerable among us, and they need adults, parents, teachers who are speaking up for them.
Yes, no, I applaud you. I applaud you with that calling. It's massive in so many aspects. I want to tell you a story about, I'm here in Eastern North Carolina, so we cover, it's a battleground state on many senses. We have a Democrat governor, a Republican lieutenant governor, and we are a mix. We are a combination of a lot of Northerners, myself included, having moved down here for military veteran purposes and retirement. So I was given a story a couple months ago about a little boy who was assaulted in the bathroom by one of his peers. And the parents joined the show, and a couple of concerned citizens joined the show. Well, I'm glad they did, because we stirred the pot. But here's what the point of this I'm telling you is I want to kind of pull from you, as we are facing so many different pieces of the battleground within our country, what we can say to educators who still care. What can we say to the parents? What can we say to those who are on school boards but have no voice? So that's what happened here. The parents cried out, and evidently this school had other abuse issues. A teacher was being abused by a student in the same school. This is an elementary school. And instead of the school board working with the parents, working with this teacher that they hired, that they were working towards, they texted me and harassed me for talking about this issue, saying I have no journalistic principles, and how dare you even, how dare you not interview us? Well, I'll interview you when you start helping some people and you make a difference, because right now you are the enemy. Right now you are hurting more children than you're helping. And 2 days ago, same school district, I get messages from a good friend who's a mom over there with 3 boys. Same issues are coming out. It is, and I shared this with Jonathan E. Moore, the Senate candidate, yesterday. It is, these stories are happening nationwide. And I said to him, I said, we the people put these people in place. We tell them what to do. It's not the other way around.
Absolutely.
And I said to him, I said, what are you telling your future constituents? Where are you giving them hope? Because I am a woman of faith. I pray for this nation daily, and that's what we need to do. And we need to stay relevant in the public square as much as they want to censor us. All that said, what do you say to fellow educators or those who are coming through Christian universities, secular universities, who want to be educators? What do you say to them with this war that they're already going into?
That what we're doing does matter and does make a difference. And as a teacher, we might not see our investment, the return on our investment for many years, but hopefully we are instilling in our students good values and courage and confidence in a generation that is lacking on a lot of those things. I hope that the only thing I can give my students is confidence in themselves and in their Savior. And also in this country that was founded on biblical principles, not perfect, of course. It's, frustrating. We even have to give that caveat, but if you don't give that caveat, people will come at you for that
Yes.
as well. But I want our children to love this country, love the Lord, love one another. That's what we're called to. And then as parents, and I'm not a parent yet, hopefully someday soon, but encouraging parents also to care about their children by paying attention to what's going on and seeing it as important and not sweeping issues under the rug anymore. And so our hope is not just in the policies, although we do need Christian policymakers. We need people like Jonathan Emord and others in Loudoun County who are stepping up to the plate, knowing that it's not a safe option right now. You already mentioned the group in Loudoun County that is physically attacking people who have put their name in the ring. But we do need good people who love this country to put their names out there, to be willing to speak up. And as more of us come out of the crevices, as more of us start speaking up, we'll realize that we're not alone in that. I have a good friend who worked at a public school in Arizona, and she talked about how it was just the assumption in the teacher's lounge that everybody was left-leaning, or that everybody was an atheist, or that everybody agreed to wear masks. And there were some who were silent, but they didn't feel like they could speak up because those are their coworkers.
Right.
And so we need to start speaking up. We need to it feels vulnerable and it doesn't feel great, but we need more people to speak up.
Yes, no, you well said, well said. Juliana Sweeney, contributor for Young Voices. I want you back. Next article you put out, do you have articles you are getting ready to put into place that we can be looking for?
I regularly am writing for The Lion, which is part of Herzog Foundation, so you can find me there as well.
Okay, fabulous. I am so glad to know you. And for all of those who are tuning in here at Common Sense America, it is just about 10 minutes before 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on Monday, May the 15th. Thank you so much for watching here at Common Sense America. Thank you for your support to this show, this podcast. We will be back right here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We have Ramona Bessinger. She is a Rhode Island educator, elementary educator. She's fighting the woke indoctrination in the school systems and has been placed in teacher jail. She will explain more about that. Also, we have a university clinical professor and also from Drexel University right out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He will be joining us. He's a brand new guest and a book author talking about the brainwashing of the woke indoctrination in our universities. Do you guys see a theme? Yeah, there is a theme, and it is just taking out our education system. But we the people, we are the majority, and we have voices and we need to raise them. So for such a time as this, as I always say, be strong, be courageous, put on the full armor of God. Get to work, ladies and gentlemen. We have a country that needs us, and we have people who need to hear truth and who know that we still love this country, our God, and our families. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.